Hi guys, we're here for our history lesson, and I'm going to try history a little bit different today. This chapter, the previous chapter, you kind of were reading on your own. The reason why I had you doing that was because I had you already doing that when we had left school. But I would like us to try this chapter a little bit differently. I'm going to kind of read through it, and I want you guys to have your history books out. I want you to read along. I'm going to actually read, and I will stop and comment on it, and then we'll do a couple pages at a time, but I want you reading along. So if you don't have your history book, pause it right now, go get your history book, and follow along, and listen to the video, and I'll do the first couple of pages. So right now, pause it, go get your history book. All right, you got it? All right, bye. All right, bye. Not bye. Continue. Hello. Um, we're going to be on page 199. We're going to be learning about England and the British Isles. This time kind of comes off the back of the last chapter about Christianity as a whole. So now we're in Europe, modern, not necessarily modern day, but Europe, but not the ancient societies. We had done Rome and Greece, which are only ancient ones. Now we're doing ones that are from the ancient times up through today. So I'm going to start reading, and I will comment as we go if I have any comments. Europe, which is about the size of the United States, is the second smallest continent. Australia is the smallest. So Australia is a little island on its own. Technically is a continent, though. Europe is the second smallest, even though it's one of the greatest influencers. It lies between the Atlantic Ocean and the continent of Asia. So Atlantic Ocean on the east, Asia in the west. To the south of the Mediterranean Sea and the continent of Africa. To the north is the Arctic Ocean, to the North Sea and stuff like that. Sometimes Europe and Asia together are called Eurasia. So together they're called Eurasia. Eurasia is the world's largest landmass. Europe makes up about 20% of Eurasia. So if you have your math right, Asia is about 4 times bigger than Europe, and Asia is the biggest continent. The Ural Mountains, the Ural River, the Caspian Sea, and the Caucasus Mountains form the boundaries between Europe and Asia. So the Ural Mountains and Ural River are the boundary between on the kind of south. The Caucasus Mountains. You know what? If we have the map there, we're not going to deal with that. We'll deal with it next chapter actually, because this is more about England. I'll deal with it next chapter when we're doing the European one. Skipping down, islands. Thousands of islands lie in the waters around Europe. The largest and most important of these islands is Great Britain, which is the 8th largest island in the world. The largest island in the world is actually Australia, but if you don't count that one, it would be Greenland. It's part of the British Isles, which include Great Britain, Ireland, and a number of much smaller islands. Other important islands in Europe are Crete, Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, and Iceland. Locate all these islands on the map. Okay, so it's an important thing to get the difference between these here. So our map this chapter will be something about these two countries right here. Okay, these two countries. Now let's get the difference here. As a whole, these are called the British Isles. Okay, as a whole, this is one island right here, and this is another island. They are not connected. The green, pink, and purple are connected, and the yellow and orange are connected. Together, they're called the British Isles. Okay? These two nations over here, this is Ireland and Northern Ireland, and this is Scotland, United Kingdom, and Wales. Patrick, your dad is actually from Ireland over here. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's like south central Ireland. I don't know if I'm right. I might be wrong. I believe it was toward the middle of Ireland, but I'm not sure if I'm right. Anyway, so together these are called the British Isles, but that is different. There's several different names here. It's different from some people use like different names here to name different things. That is not the same as Great Britain, and which is not the same as the United Kingdom. Okay, together they're called the British Isles. The United Kingdom are just these 4: Wales, England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. It's kind of a governmental body that they're together. Ireland, this is the Republic of Ireland. They are separate. They fought battles in order to get their separation from England and the United Kingdom. They are separate. They are their own governing body. They are not part of this. They are part of the British Isles, but they are not part of the United Kingdom. And Great Britain, you probably have heard Great Britain before. Great Britain is just this main island. It does not include Ireland or Northern Ireland. And then finally, England is its own country. So there are 4 names here to get straight that mean different things, that some people think mean the same thing. England, Great Britain, the British Isles, and United Kingdom mean all different things. Okay, so let's take it from big to small again. The British Isles are both of them. United Kingdom is these 3 and this one. Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Great Britain is just this island, just the main island, and England is just the green one. Okay, so taking it the opposite way, just the green one is England. Just this big island is Great Britain. These 3 things and this orange one is the United Kingdom, and all of it together are the British Isles. It's 2 islands. Got it? Okay. Important to know the difference. I will quiz you on that. Land of influence, 199 again. Great Britain is separated from mainland Europe by the English Channel. Okay, the English Channel is in the North Sea. The English Channel is here at the bottom. Separates England and France. You can see France at one point on clear days. At this place here, it's called the Strait of Dover. You can actually see across on clear days. The White Cliffs of Dover are down here. We'll talk about those later. And this is the North Sea. Over here, you'd be going to like Scandinavia, like Sweden and Norway. So it's separated by the English Channel to the south and the North Sea to the west. England, Scotland, and Wales are on the island of Great Britain. 4 countries, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, are united and are called the United Kingdom of Great Britain. The southern part of Ireland is a separate country called the Republic of Ireland. The United Kingdom is only half the size of France, so all of that is only half the size landmass-wise of France. It could fit about 40 times into the land area of the United States. So you could fit 40 of the United Kingdom into the United States, and it could fit almost 70 times into Russia. So it's pretty small. It's probably about the size of New England, like, Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, like that, Connecticut, Rhode Island. That area is probably about similar size as the United Kingdom. Yet, it's hugely important in the world. At one point in time, it says it ruled 1/4 of the Earth's people and controlled 1/4 of the Earth's land. Can you believe that? Like New England, picture like Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, controlling basically a quarter of the world to a third of the world. The mother country, Britain, especially England, specifically England, is very important to Americans because our language, many of our laws, our representative form of government, and our love of freedom are all part of our British heritage. We have a lot of heritages from a lot of different countries. America's called a melting pot. We have a lot of influences from a lot of countries, but the country that has the biggest influence on us was England. And so England's called the mother country to the United States. No, there's no father country. It's just the mother country, being like we came from them. We borrowed a lot of stuff from them. Page 200. At the time that the British colonized America, the Bible had an important influence on almost everyone in England. The biblical heritage was the most important gift that the British colonists brought to America, the Bible being important to us. British colonists and missionaries also took the Bible with them to Australia, New Zealand, many parts of Africa and Asia. England basically took the Bible almost everywhere around the world. The Bible, as we see, was the secret of England's strength. Great events in English history. We're going to read a little bit more. Ancient history. Let me see. Yeah. This is ancient England. At one point in time, Britain was the northwestern frontier of the Roman Empire, basically as far north and west as you could get in the Roman Empire. The Romans ruled the Celts. You can think of Celts. You might think of them as the Celts, but that's not what they are. Like the Boston Celtics, they're called. They really should be called the Boston Celtics. But people, when they first named them, they weren't really intelligently saying things, and it should be Celts is how it's pronounced, or the Britons who ruled there. who lived there. The Romans ruled them. And after the Roman soldiers left, Germanic tribes called the Angles and the Saxons defeated the Celts and founded the English nation. So the Celts lived there, and then a Germanic tribe. Germanic means, from the nation of around area of Germany related to Germany. So Germans and English people are related. They're different from Irish people in ancestry. So Irish people basically had that whole land to themselves, but Germany's cousins, essentially part of Germany, came over and defeated them after they were defeated by the Romans. But the Romans kind of let them have the land. The Germanic tribe came over and said, "This is our land now," and kind of took it over. And so there were two tribes. Remember we talked about the Vandals, who were a Germanic tribe last chapter. Well, there were two other tribes called one was called the Angles and one was called the Saxons, and they came and defeaed them. And they named the area Angle Land after the Angle people, and that's where we get the word England from. Angle Land. The Angles were the people, and the Angle Land they called it. And they developed the language of the Anglo-Saxons. Together, the Angles and the Saxons became known as the Anglo-Saxons. And they eventually developed into the English language today. Now, if you were to go back into 10th century England, you would not understand what they would be speaking English, but you could not understand what they were saying. Their word usage, it wouldn't even sound right to you. It wasn't even just that their accent was strong. You couldn't even understand the words. It just wouldn't sound like English. English has changed so much over the years. You probably wouldn't even understand. You probably would have a hard time understanding 17th century English, let alone it. English people 500 years ago did not sound like English people today. Language evolves so much very quickly. Middle Ages, so that was before then, that was ancient times. During the Middle Ages, many important events took place in England. One early king named Alfred the Great defeated the fierce Vikings, the Viking invaders called the Danes, and they set England on a road to becoming a strong nation with just laws, written history, and a powerful navy. So Alfred the Great was the first strong English ruler. But the Danes later conquered England, and Canute the Dane ruled England, Denmark, and Norway for a time. Danes like Denmark, Danish guy. In 1066, William the Conqueror, one of the most famous English rulers, from Normandy, France, who's actually a French guy, from Normandy, he invaded England and won the Battle of Hastings and became the King of England. His victory was called the Norman Conquest. If you hear something called a Norman, it's something to do with French. For 100 years, French was the main language used in England. Believe it or not, for 100 years back then, the main language used in England was French, not English, and because of William the Conqueror. And so many French words, including rule, royal, and sir, kind of made their way into the English language. So the word royal, we think of royal and yes sir as English words, but they're actually French words that were adopted into English. The Magna Carta, one of the most important events in the Middle Ages, was the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215. This was one of the most important events. Remember I mentioned last chapter that the invention of the printing press is one of the most important events in the history of mankind. This is another one. It might be another top 10, obviously excluding biblical events. Just we deal with non-biblical events. Printing press would be on my top 10 list, and I think the signing of the Magna Carta would also be in the top 10. Both of those might even be on the top 5. But signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, nothing like it had ever happened before. The Magna Carta established that the English tradition that the monarch is limited by the laws of the land. Before this, most monarchies, remember monarchies where a king rules, the king could kind of do what he wanted. But the Magna Carta set it up so that the king was limited by the laws. When the people set up laws, even the king had to be under the laws. He couldn't just do whatever he wanted. And the Magna Carta defined the traditional rights of Englishmen and led the way to constitutional government, which is ruled by laws. Rather than ruled by a king, rather than ruled by whatever the king says goes, it was ruled by laws. Oh, it looks like I'm frozen. Hopefully it'll come back in a second. I'm almost done. It also started England on its way to representative government, in which the people had an active role in the government. By 1295, England had its first official representative assembly, the Parliament. So by what 80 years later, they now started what was called Parliament. Parliament's kind of like their version of Congress. Um, but if you ever see video of Parliament, they just act a lot differently than our Congress does. They all yell all at the same time, and they're loud and everything. But they essentially are debating back and forth in Parliament. Just a little longer. The liberties and republican principles that the English established in the Magna Carta um, later became part of the American system of government and the governments of the free countries of Europe. Some clauses in the Constitution of the United States are even similar to parts of the Magna Carta. Basically, our Constitution was based a lot on the Magna Carta. Two of these are no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That means you can't have your life taken from you, your liberty, your freedom taken from you, or your property taken from you unless, like, you go through a court trial or something. Nobody can just come and take your freedom, your liberty, your life away from you, your property. And also, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. You can't just be thrown in jail for no reason. And last paragraph on 202. During the Middle Ages, actually, you know what? Let's save this for next time. I want to expand on it. We'll save that for next time. And that's your history lesson for today.